everyone, this is Elisen and welcome to another wonderful episode of Beyond Business Conversations, interview series with women who have it all. And today I have this wonderful lady. Her name is Sheila from the Third Eye Group, and she has a very special meaning behind why it's called the Third Eye Group, because when she told me what she's doing, I'm thinking, hang on, wait a minute, it's nothing to do with your business, so why is there this difference, right? So she explained to me, and I'm going to let her explain that to you. So if you're new to my work, my name is Elisa, and I basically help spiritual entrepreneurs with their money marketing mindset so that they can have the guts and courage to charge what they're worth, raise their rate, and actually get it so that they can make good money and live the rich life they desire. So today I have Sheila with me, and we're going to be talking about this concept called time. And, you know, it's been a while since I wore a watch because I don't want the time to confine me, and I want to trust that I will show up on time. And that works for me, and that's really going with the flow and trusting that the universe actually delivers. So that's about me. But on my real clock, I actually set it 10 minutes earlier than the real time, so that kind of like helps me to stay on time. But otherwise, I've not been wearing a watch for a long time. So today, Sheila's going to be talking to us about time. Why time is just a concept, time is something that we made up, and how by removing time we can help us create and manifest our desires. So let me warmly welcome Sheila. Hello, Sheila.
Hi, Elise. Thank you. Thank you.
So I know that before this you were from corporate America, the typical journey and stuff like this. So tell us why you do what you do, and what was your journey about?
Well, I spent a lot of time in good old corporate America, and there came a point where the company I was working for was closing. And I had no clue as to what I wanted to do, but I knew I wanted to do my own thing. I didn't want to go work a job, as they say. So I had a friend who said to me, why don't you do what you've always done? And I had no idea what she meant by that. So when I asked her to explain that a little bit, she said that for as long as she had known me, she had always known that I was really good at making things happen, making them happen on time, and getting people to be and do things on time, and really great at organizing things, and I hadn't really seen that myself. So I started doing some research and found that there was an entire industry when it comes to professional organizing, and I tested some things on some family members and friends, and found what I consider to be my sweet spot, and that is productivity. And over the course of time, maybe the first year or so, getting started and kind of getting acclimated and getting a feel for how I wanted to work and really who I wanted to work with, I started to discover that there was something else to this instead of the typical solutions that really anybody can use, and started to see that there was a little bit something more to it, that if you took this concept, if you took time and took what you wanted to do, whether it was organize your office space or increase your productivity, whatever that was, if you took it and you looked at it from a personal perspective, like how you yourself relate to time and how your personality plays into getting things done, there's something totally different there. And one thing that really got me to start to see that was stepping on a die-cast car of my son. My son was about maybe 5 at the time. And I was barefoot. Those things hurt. And so got this little die-cast car, and a lot of them spread out on the floor. And I stepped on one, and it really got me thinking, okay, I don't know what else to do. He's got all the means to put his things away and have them be in the right place or where they're supposed to be. Why is this stuff in the middle of the floor? So, and why am I injuring myself when I walk into his room? So I started to think about it, and what came to me was that he was really seeing things differently than me. We're all wired differently. And so I took a step back and I kind of started to look at things from his perspective and get into his world. And he is totally opposite of my personality. I'm very, say, logical, so to speak, very linear for the most part of my thinking, and he's not. He's very creative. He's, he's out there. And so he was relating to this whole thing, like putting his things away in a totally different way. And when I started to look at what made him tick, I saw that maybe if I took and changed the labels on the bins that he was supposed to put his toys into, maybe that might make a difference for him. So I tried it. So instead of the labels with just the words, I changed the labels to include pictures and the words. He put his stuff away. No more die-cast cars spread on the floor. The tub of dinosaurs, instead of being, strewn about across the floor, everything got put away, and we didn't have to fight because we were every day just going, and then you get to the weekend and this kid's room would just be totaled, and we'd have to really fight to get the room together over the weekend, and that's really not how I wanted to spend my weekend. But I thought about how I got him to get that and to do that, and I thought about what would happen if I would have that same thing, if I would take that same thing and apply it to my clients. Like, what would happen if I were able to say, okay, how do you relate? Like, how are you wired? And I just started with that and really got some great results for people just by taking that step back and looking at how they themselves like to deal with things and how they maneuver, so to speak, just in the same way that I did with him. And I really saw that I was onto something. And the whole third eye piece was, the name was something that was given to me in meditation. And what I learned was, because initially I thought, okay, so why that? Why is this what I'm being given? And so when I got to that space of just kind of being still and being able to understand that, like, why this, what I saw was that I really had the ability to look beyond what was on the surface. And because that's usually where people operate when it comes to organizing your space or trying to increase your productivity. That's where people operate. They try to solve things on the surface, and it's really not about that. It's about going deeper. So that's what third eye represents, going deeper within to a more personal level, and even beyond that, on a spiritual level, looking at really who you are, or as I like to say, who you be, and pulling those things out and really working on that level first to eliminate some of the challenges like procrastination. I deal with clients who have a lot of clutter too. And for clutter, I tell people all the time, for clutter, it's not about the paper, it's about something else that's going on. So that's what Third Eye Group is all about. It's about going beneath the surface and being able to really see what's going on there, the place where, people can't see. It's really hard to see yourself at times. So that's where the whole Third Eye Group came from.
I think you brought up a lot of interesting things for me to question. So first of all, how does your organization, from organization, it went to time, and then it went to really decluttering, and then how does that really tie up all together? Because you're all about being on time, it's about the time. So how did you discover that organizing the space has got anything to do with time?
Well, what I found is that when people's spaces are in disarray or when they're disorganized, and even right down to their computers too, your filing systems, the space on your desk, the things that you have around you to help support you, when those things are in disarray, they tend to slow you down a lot, because you get to the point where let's say you've got a proposal or something that you're going to prepare for a client, depending upon what you do. If you can't find the notes from the initial conversation or the initial meeting, you can't really do what you have to do. If you can't, you know it's somewhere in that stack of things on your desk, but you don't know where. Right?
Oh my God. I love this. When you talked about the story about your son, it's like, we make the bed. It's like we're just conditioned to make the bed and after we wake up. But to me, it's like, why do I have to make my bed and then the nighttime I mess it up again? So that I drive my husband nuts because. But I get what he means. Like now it's like, your environment is a reflection of you. You need to be in this good space and then blah, 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 that kind of thing. But in terms of like really productivity, if you want to call it, so why would I want to pack my bed up? Nobody's coming to my house unless someone's coming to my house. Okay, I get it. I need to make my bed nice and tidy and but it's less than 12 hours. I'm going to mess it up again. So, so that doesn't make sense. But I totally relate. Like with so much clutter, it's like every time I do a decluttering, I'm like, okay, this is it. This is it. The next time we do it again, I'm like, where the hell did all these show up? Oh my gosh! And I think I drive my helper crazy as well. Like I put things here, and I'm like, where is it? Where is it? Where is it? And then this is the piece that clicked with me because how it slows down your time because you have to spend time finding it. You have to waste energy thinking, backtracking where you put it in the first place, and it's very frustrating. It's not so much of the action, but it's so frustrating. You know it's there, but you don't know where it's there, and it's just taking that joy out of you. And especially if you're getting out of the house, oh my God.
Yes, and that's I think it's something that we don't see. It's kind of over here in our blind spot. Because when you think about it, it's not something we're taught. We're never taught that, like how to organize a space or how to keep things neat. Like, as a kid, you're taught, okay, you've got to clean your room. But then you might come to the conclusion that, like you were just saying, like, why do I have to do that? Because tomorrow night I'm in the bed again and it is going to be messed up again. So what's the point? But we're never taught that. Like, I remember being in high school. And back then, and I might be dating myself here, but back then, we were taught accounting, or they called it bookkeeping. We were taught that. We were taught how to sew. We were taught homemaking, all that kind of thing. But we were never taught how to keep ourselves organized. We're never taught how to keep ourselves on time. Like, I can remember learning how to ride a bike. My father taught me how to ride my bike. I remember that like it was yesterday. But there's nothing in my memory that says to me, okay, somebody taught me all of this. Really, this is just ingrained in me, is who I am. But we're never taught those things, and we never really seem to kind of get to a point where we resolve those things unless we're driving ourselves or other people crazy, and there comes a point where, okay, this has really got to stop. It's time for the madness to stop. But we don't see a lot of times that because we don't have that organized space, or because we don't clean our desks off, every, say at the end of every day, or because we don't have the filing system or the other systems in place to support us, we don't see how that really hinders us. It really does slow us down, and it gets to the point where it really starts to impact our business, for sure.
I wanted to say something before I ask you how you got your son to actually, change. I don't believe in feng shui. I'm Chinese. Feng shui is a huge culture. I don't believe in feng shui because it's all about shifting in energy. It's all about the mindset, right? It's like I shift something, and then as a feng shui master, I know the feng shui people are going to kill me, right? But that's my belief. It's fine. You want. It's fine. If you just with it, suck it up, right? So, it's like because the feng shui master will come in and say, oh, I've shifted this. I believe in energy, that's for sure. Like everything's the flow. But I don't believe in decluttering because that's holding on, like it's hoarding, that's something that I want to talk about as well. It's like this emotional attachment, right? Yes. Holding you back. But when the feng shui master comes in, they say, oh, I shifted this, I shifted. So he told you that something shifted, and then it became your belief that, hey, something shifted, and this will happen. So it's about changing your belief system. So I challenge the feng shui master, don't tell what you did to your clients, you know, because obviously when you have a situation like, I want to have a son, I want to have a job, blah, 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 and then they ask the feng shui master to do some adjustments, right? So I think there is this placebo effect because in their mind something is shifted. So I challenge those people not to do anything. You know, just have this test. Like, everyone has their own situation. Everyone has their own shift.
Right.
So
Go
to the house, do some adjustments. Don't tell anyone, and then see if there is a shift. If there is a shift, I believe it works. But otherwise, it's just like changing. It's the belief system.
Yes, and yes, there's a real strong point there. It's in everything is energy, right? And so when energy shifts, we shift. And it doesn't have to be necessarily that we're conscious of it. You know, if you're in tune, you can sense it, right? But it's all about the energy. Like, you know, going back to clutter. When it comes to clutter, you mentioned the emotional attachment, and that's what I came to see with clutter. It's like we have things that we're attached to emotionally, physically, spiritually, mentally. There have been case studies, some of my own that I've done too, but I watched other people do them first, and I really was so intrigued because when energy shifted, people shifted. Even right down to like the things that the clutter, where there were physical attachments, like the space was cluttered, and then they had, say, physical clutter, meaning their body, like they were overweight, or maybe there was some health challenge that was starting. But when they addressed either one of those things, the environment or their body shifted, the other thing shifted too. So if the environment changed, then you were able to work on the body and get the results with the body that you wanted, and vice versa, which I find really interesting. But it's all about the energy and then believing that too, because if you have to, say, buy into, so to speak, what you're doing. So if you're not with that, then it's not going to work, so to speak. You know, or you won't see the results, right? You won't see what's really there because your belief system doesn't line up with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You brought up something interesting as well. Like, we think like decluttering is just the space, but decluttering could be your weight as well. Like, you're carrying extra that's not serving you. So I see stories like once they shed the weight, obviously you will look better because it's about that feeling, right? Energy shifts. And I think with decluttering, I realized as well why most people, I mean, I speak for myself, why I resist decluttering, because it's a conscious effort. Should I want this? Do I want this? Do I want this? And it really requires mental energy and the decision. Most people avoid making decisions. You know, I know, I mean, I've done enough with decluttering and work on myself to actually realize that something is amiss, something's not flowing, let's just declutter, and boom, something is flowing, right? So it's about the universe wanting to fill up the space, but then I realized that you have to make the intention that it fills up to something good, love, or even better. So let's talk about what shifted for your son. Why did the labels cause that little shift?
You know, I think for him, especially given that he was just 5 at the time, it was the way that he related to the pictures versus just the words on the labels. Not necessarily that.
So what was the word that you had in the picture that you switched?
Oh, so for the die-cast cars, the bin that had the die-cast cars in it just said cars originally. But I printed out, I went and found a little, cartoony looking graphic, kind of animated, because that's what he related to. He loves animation. So I found a graphic that fit that, and I added that to the bin. And that made the shift for him. It was like he could relate to the picture better than he could relate to the word car, although he knew what it was, he knew how to read it, he could spell it. That wasn't doing it for him. The picture is what did it for him, and I never really had a problem with him after that. The toys were always picked up, they were always put back, and what kind of made it difficult for him too was that he's a bit, he's multidimensional, even still now to this very day. He has he can have 3 or 4 different things going on at once. And, you know, it can be a movie, it can be a game, it can be a conversation. And when you say to him, hey, do you want to turn that thing off? No, I'm watching that. And he was the same way as a kid. He was the same way. And so that drove me crazy with my linear self. But I got to learn that, okay, that's just who he is. That's how he's wired. And I just have to respect that and let him be, because he was fine. Yeah. But I think what really made the shift for him was that the picture was the thing he related to, just like we all learn in different ways. Like there are the 7 different intelligences. You know, we all learn in different ways. And a lot of children learn kinesthetically. They don't learn by sitting in a classroom and being, say, lectured to. They learn from doing and from, you know, from being in motion. And that's the kind of learner he is. And that was one reason why I pulled him out of school. I ended up homeschooling him because he had some challenges, but the challenges were present for him because of the environment. You had like 36 kids in a room. I'm sorry?
How old is your son now?
He's 20 now.
So I think you brought up something really interesting about homeschooling. That's something that I am toying into, but I also see the benefits of you know, having them in the real environment where they interact with people. So there are pros and cons. So what is the main thing that you see a difference in your son, like, because you homeschooled him? So is there
for him, I was able to create the environment for him that was most easiest for him to learn in. In the school environment, you had like 36 kids in a classroom and 1 teacher, and she had help, but like twice a week. And this was at what we call a charter school, not a public school. And he had challenges. He processes things differently than, say, you or I do. So the teacher would give him, maybe say, like, give the kids 3 things to go do. And he would remember and do the first 2, but would forget what the 3rd one was and be really upset with himself. And he was also challenged when it came to pragmatics. He just could not wait his turn when it came to, you know, like, hey, I've got a question. So he started to act out. And when they called me and told me, hey, you know, your kid's acting out in school, I asked them, are you sure you have the right Hawkins? Because that's not my kid. So, but when they said his name and I said, okay, I'll be right there, because I knew something was wrong. He was never like that at home. He was never like that with anyone else, friend, family member, a new environment. He just was never that way. So I knew it had to be the environment. And when we pulled him out and brought him home, I had support. I had to have support because then I was still working. And I had a number of friends who were either homeschooling or had homeschooled their children. So I had a lot of support. I had great information, and they supported me in that. That village helped me do that for him. And I made sure that I got him into other things because, like you say, it is important to have them in that mix. You know, it's important to make sure that their socialization skills get developed and that they have those opportunities. So I created those opportunities for him. And he thrived after that. You know, there was because I was able to tailor the environment to the way that he learned, he was able to catch, because he's a sponge even now. He soaks up information. You give it to him, he's got it. And he wasn't getting that in school. So the environment, just the shift in the environment helped him. And he is a social butterfly. So I really had to make sure that we had the things in his days and his weeks and you know, in his school year that allowed him to do that. But shifting that environment for him was everything. It really was.
So there wasn't a discrepancy, so to speak, like compared to one who's not homeschooled and like your son who is homeschooled. Do you see like a difference in the schooling technique?
Not really, not between like him and his friends, like the entire time he was growing, because I was always looking for that, like, you know, am I doing enough, right? am I doing this right? And so, but, you know, I did what I needed to do for him. And then I started to do some research, like, okay, so this is what I see with him. What are the statistics, say, just on a national level, what are the statistics? And what I found was that homeschooling children actually excelled grade level wise and test score wise
Why do you think
better than children who were in a regular school.
Why do you think that is the statistics? Why do you think
I think because with homeschooling, they get what they really need. Not that they wouldn't get it in, say, a traditionalized environment, but if you've got a child who's like a bit behind in math because they don't like it or they feel challenged by it or whatever the case may be, you can stop and you can deal with that. Whereas in a classroom, you can't necessarily do that. At some point, that child's going to have to be taken aside, and you're going to have to work with them, or parents, or a tutor, or somebody. But when it comes to that type of environment, the smaller environment, with someone who really knows you well and is looking at things from that perspective, like, okay, so how do you? Because math for him it made me want to pull my hair out. But when I talked to a friend of mine who, he was challenged the same way when he was young with math. And so I had a conversation with him about, okay, so how did you get through this? And what did your parents do? And for him, it was the same thing. They had to explain things to him in a totally different way, and he got it. And that's what we started doing with my son, and he got it. It was always challenging for him because he doesn't like it, but we were able to give things to him in the way that he was able to best digest it, and he got it. Yeah. So that I think that, that may be one reason why the statistics are, what they are for homeschoolers versus, say, traditional schooling.
I totally agree. Like in Singapore, we focus a lot on education, and like in the math, they have a certain way to solve it. And even if you get the right answer, and if your formula is wrong, it's wrong. So they teach the kids a very one-sided kind of kind of like problem-solving solution.
Right.
And I mean, I totally agree with you. I can see what the benefits are, because my child, I think they're a little bit like yours. Like they're all over the place. But they're not stupid. Yes. But because they're not performing well in school, they are deemed like you are not good enough.
Yes.
Competitive. I need to be. So that's what I'm considering doing, because like I want to create the best environment for my child. Like if she hates math, then either do something about it or just forget about it, right? But it's not it's not your life don't depend on it.
Yes, and I think that adds pressure to our children. They come to a point where they kind of like judge themselves with that. And it's like one thing that was really hard for me to drive home with my son was that like he would stand over me at times when I was grading his work. And it was no big deal. It's like, okay, I'm just looking to see how well you did. And if there's something that's missing, if there's something that you don't understand, then we just do it again. It's as simple as that. But he was really hard on himself. And he would stand there and, the minute that it looked like something was wrong, he would be really upset. And I had to get him to just relieve himself of that pressure, because, it is not that serious. And like you said, that's not your life. It doesn't represent who you are. It has nothing to do with you. And we all have our strong points and our weaknesses as part of being human. But that took a while. That lesson was a hard lesson for him. But I think that's one thing that school systems do. They have our children kind of judging themselves in a way. And it's really you kind of have to ask yourself, okay, just how healthy is that for them? Yeah.
You gave me a lot to think about as a mom, and it's been toying in my head for a while. So, but really, the next thing I want to talk about is, what do you mean by on time? On whose time? Your time or divine's time? I mean, we all know that this thing called the divine timing, and
Right.
how you force and try. If it's not in your time, it's not that God doesn't want to give it to you, but there are other elements because you're not ready, that you can have it. So there are other elements. So when you say on time,
Right.
what time is it really?
Well, for me, on time is that divine timing. Because like you said, really, if it's not time for something, it's not going to be. That's just the way things work. And I think that a lot of times, we push, and there are reasons why, too. Things don't happen when we want them to, or, that kind of thing. And so I think we have to look at things from that perspective that, number one, again, time does not exist. It's something that we made up. And the agreement that it exists is what makes it real. Right? Like we all go by a clock. Depending upon where you are in the world, the time is different, but we still all agree that we go by that clock. But it's just like money, though. Money is nothing except for printed paper and stamped coin. But the fact that we all agree that it has value gives it its value. So we can use it.
Since we have money and on time, so how do we make money show up on time for us?
I think that's about really, again, going back to the divine, being in line with your purpose and really understanding who you are, what you're here for, and then being able to trust the divine and knowing that if I walk in my purpose, if I stay my course, if I stay in my lane, so to speak, then those particular things come to me because I'm in alignment with it. And I think, too, sometimes we make things a little bit hard. That's been a lesson for me. We tend to kind of make things a little difficult for ourselves. Like we see things as hard. And sometimes, especially when it comes to getting clients and the money coming in, we see that sometimes as being hard, and it's like, no, it's not really that difficult. It's as long as you're in line with your purpose and what you're here to do, and if you're doing things in that way, then everything's there, everything shows up. But we also have to kind of walk that fine line, because we are dealing with people who are ruled by that clock. They really have time running the show. So you kind of have to have a foot in both worlds, so to speak, knowing that, okay, there is only divine timing. But, if you've got a meeting with a client at 4 o'clock, then you've got to remember that, okay, right, you've got to be there at 4 o'clock. But still remembering not to allow it to control you, because that's what I see. Like, people have just given control completely over the time.
So I have another question. So another question, right? So we talk about divine time and we talk about the real time, and we all know that it's a journey for me to to bring divine time and go with the flow and not rush. And the more you rush, the more you don't get it, right? But there's an element like what you say. If you show up on time at 4 o'clock, you gotta show up on time. So this is where I trust that the clients will show up and stuff like this. But the bill comes. The bill is the reality. I mean, this is like the human reality, not the divine reality. But it's like by the 26th of March, you've got to pay your dues. So that is what do you call this, the reality, right? And how do you merge, like, okay, I know the clients will be there, and how do you bridge that time zone?
Yeah, you have to kind of, again, like walking with, 1 foot in one world and 1 foot, on the other side of that line. In walking that, we still have to remember that because we are here, we're having this human experience. We are divine beings, but we're having this human experience. So inside of that human experience, we have to remember that, okay, so since I'm here and I'm human and having this experience, then I have to remember that, okay, like you said, March 26th, right? It's coming. So I've got to align things, say calendar-wise and client-wise. So what does that look like in your planning, like your editorial calendar for your blogging and your event calendar and your networking, whether it's social networking or you're physically going to an event, right? We have to line all of those things up in expectation, and then again, trusting, like, stepping into the other world, right? And trusting that the clients will be there, but still lining that up. So, like, what does that mean? Like, if this is what I say am requiring, if this is what I need by such and such date, then how do I have to align things in the physical realm so that I can still have the means to exist in the physical realm? So again, it's about walking that, and it's a really fine line too, because they're so different. They're so different. But I think if we always come back to center, and if we incorporate things in our day, like I call it ritualizing your day. And for me, it's about my mornings. So what does your morning look like? Is, the meditation, prayer, a good workout, whatever that is that feeds us, that's what we have to make sure we're incorporating in our day so that we remain in line with divine, so that we get the messages that we're supposed to get, whether they come to us or through someone else or in our daily experiences. We've got to do those things on a daily basis so that we stay in line with the divine and in line with our purpose, and so that we can be shown what to do and when to do it. And trusting that, sometimes you get that guidance too, like, okay, no, now is not the time for this. We want you to do this. And we may not understand why, but when we follow that guidance, it always works. We may question it, but we don't have to understand it. We just have to listen, because we know what happens when we don't listen.
So we know what happens when we don't listen, because I'm sure we have crashed our heads enough to learn the lesson that we need to listen. So for someone who's new, how do you know that that is the divine voice versus your ego voice?
Yeah, that can be a tough thing, especially when you're just like, if it's something that you're just starting to do, like if meditation is something that's new to you. You have to, I think meditation is a process where when you first begin, you have to learn to quiet the mind, because you know that as soon as the house is quiet, as soon as your eyes are closed, the chatter starts.
Yeah.
Right? The chatter starts, and you start thinking about the laundry, or, oh, wow, yeah, I've got that thing on Tuesday, or whatever it is. You've got all these things flooding in. And for me, I learned to meditate at a really young age. I think I was, 10? My father got us involved in a martial arts class, and that was part of what we were taught. So before and after class, we meditated. So I learned it at an early age, but it's still, there's a process to it, I think, where when you first start, you know that, okay, the voices and the chatter are going to be there. It's just about learning what works to quiet those voices. And you get better and better at it, just like anything else. You get better and better at it, and you get to a point where you can sit down and meditate, and that chatter's not there anymore, because you've gone through the process to know how to shut that down, and that doesn't, like, that's not the space for that. And in being able to kind of let go of that ego, and knowing that once you enter that space, there's no room for your ego. There's only room for that divine connection. And sometimes still you find yourself questioning, like, okay, so is that me? or is that really what I'm supposed to do? Is that really what Spirit is giving to me? And just learning to kind of discern with that. And then sometimes too, like for me, if it's something really big and I'm really questioning, like if it's the next big step that I'm taking and I'm really questioning, I have friends I call, and they know what's going on, they know what I'm attempting to do, and they can help get me that clarity so that I know, okay, yeah, that was your ego talking, or no, this is really the message for you. So I think it's about that that ongoing process, and I think it keeps us humble too. It really does. Just knowing that, okay, at any given point in time, that could be your ego talking. And just remembering that and just kind of, say, testing the water. Sometimes I'll pose a question more than once, and if I can't get clarity, I'll write the question on a card, like a little note card, and I put it under my pillow before I go to sleep. And I acknowledge and ask the question before I go to sleep. And usually that same night, I get the answer in a dream, or it comes to me in my meditation the next morning, or it'll come through somebody else during the course of that next day. So I think it's just about knowing, having a sense of like, okay, well, I'm not sure, and then having those, say, places to go, whether it's a friend or another trusted source, or posing the question again in a different way, so that we really get a feel for what the real deal is.
Yeah, I totally agree. Like, this is what people say, like, you surround yourself with high vibrational people, surround yourself with the right frequency. And so you have to be really conscious about your environment, and that's what Sheila's talking about. I mean, when you say environment, it's not only just your physical environment, but your body, your environment, who you hang with. You've got to be really conscious. And, it's also about trusting and letting go. And I feel like if from the ego, you feel very heavy. It's all about me. It's, it's definitely that. But if it's from the divine, yeah, sure, there'll be fear because you're going to uncharted territories. But know that that feeling is actually, sure, there'll be fear, but know that beneath the fear is actually excitement, like, oh, this is what I really want to create. That is what we say when God will take you to places you've never been before, and you not be ready to go to those places that you've never been before. So before we end this conversation, do you have any last messages for us to keep our environment, keep our time and everything in clean order?
Yeah, I think what it really is about, and what I would encourage people to do, is to really step back for a minute and consider that there is a different way of looking at things. Looking at things from that perspective that, okay, well, time doesn't even exist. So here you are trying to manage something that doesn't even exist. So, even just that statement, it's like, wow, that sounds kind of odd. But, if it's just this concept, then really take the steps to see what it is, like how it is that you relate to time, and look to personalize like those tools that you use. Like most people nowadays, I think, are using electronic devices, but I know that there are some people out there who are using electronic devices and that's not the fit for them, or they don't have the right one. And that's another thing that really will impede the process of just getting things done. But you've got to look at how you personally relate to time. And most times our relationship with time is dysfunctional. But you've got to shift that into, a really functional relationship, and that means looking at what works for you and really organizing your space, your physical space, in a way that supports you. So, how do you need to have things filed so that you can easily find them? What kind of tools do you need in your space to help you get things done? And then really looking to see what you're actually giving your time to. What I run across with clients a lot of time is that they're giving their time to something that really doesn't deserve it. It's the busy work or the things that they'll focus on when they're procrastinating on doing that one thing that they really need to be doing. So it's about personalizing things, seeing what your relationship is, and building on that foundation to not just create your own system that helps you productivity-wise, but then building other systems in your business, and then focusing on the things that drive and generate revenue, and being bold enough to go ahead and finally hire that VA or the intern college student or whomever it is, somebody who's capable of handling those things so that you can really focus on the things that generate revenue and get in some me time. That's another thing that I see. As women, we don't give to ourselves, but we really can't expect to be able to give to our businesses, to our families, to our friends, without putting ourselves first. So that's something that definitely has to be in the mix. We've got to take care of ourselves. We've got to make us a priority. We have to make ourselves a priority for sure.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So in the word time, there's so much we can actually dissect and expand. Like me time, that's time, like putting yourself first, and then that's the repercussion of it. And also about prioritize your time, like waste energy on doing things that don't matter, or like create a revenue generating kind of activity. So that you've got to do. And I think the next thing is actually there's no past, there's no future, there's no time. Time is really now. Now you're here watching me, watching. Time is now. This is the time.
Exactly.
So I feel like if you are worried about, oh, I don't have enough money, blah, 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 but try it. I have tried it so many times. Like, I think that I don't have enough money right now because I need to go to the bank and draw money, but when I want to buy something, when I check, I have exactly or a little bit more. Like, even if it's $1 something, of course, it's not going to be like in the thousands of dollars, but sometimes I just want to buy like maybe a piece of bread or some stationery, and I worry like, oh my God, I don't have it. But when you check your wallet, I guarantee you have exactly almost exactly what you want. And then, just focus on what you have right now. If you have $200, be grateful for that $200, because if you worry about, oh, I want more, then you're not going to be focused on what you have right now. If you want to buy something, this $200 is going to get you what you want right now.
Right now, right.
Or do we say, but for what? For the future? But right now.
Exactly.
So I'm so happy to have this conversation with you about time, because I think time, in like what you say, a lot of people's mind is warped. Really no time. It's really right now. So as you can see in her Sheila's website, I'm going to bring her up again. So this is where you can find her, thirdeyegroup.net. And find Sheila there and all her wonderful, fantastic tips about time and productivity, and of course space. And I think she has opened my mind also, like not to just think decluttering, nothing to do with time, but actually there's so much more to do with it. So thank you so much, Sheila, for this wonderful episode, and I'm very sure the viewers will and must have learned something from you. So thank you again, once again, so much for your time.
Thank you, Elise, for having me. It was my pleasure.
And so if you want to connect with her, do join our group, the Spiritual Entrepreneurs. She'll be there, answer your questions, and it's a buzzing community there. So go ahead and join us, and I'll see you really soon. Bye.